Government shutdown now at 14 days, and that's why we have an extra guest here on set. 14 days, closed all 21 of the Smithsonian Institution museums, as well as the National Zoo. There are still more airline flight delays as well. House Speaker Mike Johnson saying Monday the country is, quote, barreling toward one of the longest shutdowns in American history. We are joined by Republican analyst Paul Kanitra to examine where we are in this shutdown. Good morning, sir. Good to see you.
Morning, guys.
14 days. Do you see any optimism? How long do you think this thing could last?
I have to be honest. Last time that I was with you guys, I thought this was going to be over in a week or two, and it certainly seems like the Democrats have a strong will to keep this going. And Speaker Johnson referenced it earlier, right? I mean, it could be the longest shutdown in government history. Obviously, I have my thoughts on why and who and everything along those lines.
So who do you think is controlling the narrative here in terms of who's looking good or bad in terms of responsibility for the shutdown?
Look, again, trying to be as objective as humanly possible
We appreciate that.
I think Republicans are the beneficiary of this right now. You look at blue states like New Jersey and Virginia, where the races are tightening. And there's a poll that showed a dead heat in the Virginia governor's race. There's one that showed a dead heat in the New Jersey governor's race. If the optics of this were really hurting the Republican Party, you would think that you would see those numbers going in an opposite direction, which is why I think that Republicans don't have an appetite to negotiate or to change the
Just real quick,
quo.
you saw a dead heat in Virginia?
Yeah.
That race isn't close.
There's two recent polls in Virginia.
I'll give you New Jersey. This is a tight race. Virginia is not. That is over.
I'll give you both of them right now, and then the studio can go back and double check me in 1 second, because Virginia was showing up 15 points just a month or two ago. There's one poll that showed that it was a 2.3 margin of error within the margin of error of the poll, and another showed a dead heat.
Because everyone I've talked to,
Trafalgar was the single most accurate.
We'll agree to disagree on that one. Allison, go ahead.
Paul, I think it's interesting what you're saying about the politics of this shutdown, okay, and the optics and who will get blamed. Yeah. But there's another question about the substance of it. Why are Republicans, since you represent their perspective, opposed to negotiating about healthcare subsidies, since most people, Americans, who rely on the healthcare subsidies are in red states? Why dig in your heels about that? Wouldn't it be a win-win for everybody if they were to negotiate something good for Americans?
All Republicans are saying is we want a clean CR. We want to keep the Biden budget going forward for a little bit more while we can negotiate this properly. And Democrats have shot themselves in the foot. They have had a million different opportunities to separate out the checks on illegal immigrants and for healthy workers, and they haven't done that. Had they actually done that, they would be in a much better situation right now.
I know, but I understand, Paul. But you understand that they are focused on just the subsidies portion. That's what they're dug in about, and that's something that would help Republicans. So can't we just all get together and agree that they can negotiate that right now? Why is that? Why would that be bad?
Again, it goes back to who's holding all the cards. I don't understand why Republicans would negotiate when Democrats haven't outwardly come out and said, okay, we're willing to concede on these points. You may be hearing behind the scenes that they're just focused on the subsidies right now, but they haven't conceded the other points.
What do you make of an interesting voice? Some are calling amazingly a rhino from the far right. Marjorie Taylor Greene has been outspoken saying Republicans are the reason the government is shut down. One, they could reopen it because of the nuclear option. But most of all, she is saying healthcare premiums are skyrocketing across the country and we can fix this. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene.
And I'm not arguing against subsidies, okay? The reality of the situation is the subsidy conversation needs to take place. The timelines and who's forcing this, I mean, that's really the crux of the issue right here. Democrats initially were looking to jam all this in and then only have it extend until the end of October. They were going to need to renegotiate it anyway. And even right now in the current conversations, this would only, if this was a continuing CR, this would only get us to the end of November. The conversations need to take place on a global scale. So I don't understand why they aren't just comfortable with the Biden budget and aren't just passing that anyway.
Well, the Democrats are saying these subsidies expire and starting next month, just in a couple of weeks, people are getting their premium notices for next year, and those premiums are going to go up unless there's a deal. Some are saying, though, they could make this retroactive, come up with a deal later. Yeah.
To the point earlier, I do think that it's not breaking through all the noise. Again, I'll go to another poll that you guys can reference afterwards, but 63% blame Democrats, 67% blame Republicans, and there's crossover because they're blaming a little bit of each. They're showing you the poll right now on that screen, aren't they?
Trafalgar poll.
I knew it.
Hey, look, you want? I'll bet you a steak dinner that is not a 10-point race.
I'll bet you a steak dinner that if
I've paid
Republicans,
a lot of attention to that state, and it ain't.
if Republicans win in Virginia and New Jersey, it's game over for the midterm elections. Can we agree on that?
New Jersey's tight. I think it might be tighter than the polls suggest. I won't be surprised at all if Republicans win here, quite frankly.
So
Allison?
Paul, what's the breakthrough? What in the past, historically, what's led people back to the table? Is it just Americans getting angry enough?
Right, and we'll continue down that road. Only 12% of Republicans believe that this is actually a huge issue for them right now, and 39% of Democrats. So we're not even over 50% in terms of each party thinking that the shutdown is a big deal. And when you take out the military, okay, the majority of the 300,000+ federal workers donate to the left. They're all Democrat leaning. I just think that Republicans are holding all the cards here, and that's the breakthrough is going to have to come from somebody giving in.
I think President Trump was right when prior to his election, he went on Fox and Friends and said that any government shutdown is always the blame of the chief executive.
Well, if we're going
to he said no matter what, it's always the president's job to lead and to get to both parties.
He did say that.
If we're going to play the quote game, can we talk about how Chuck Schumer always said you should always give a continuing resolution?
I agree. No, hey, look, I'm first one to say I think they're holding no cards here, the Democrats. They've always said you should not use a shutdown to argue your legislative priorities.
Fair enough.
Agree with that. I'm just saying the tactics, and it's interesting to see how the president negotiates. He can broker Middle East peace easier than he can a government shutdown because he's applied his leverage. Why isn't he personally involved here?
What's his motivation? What's his
to get the government reopened?
But what's his motivation in terms of the end result for the American people?
He's the leader of the free world, and if he can't solve this problem, what can he solve?
I'm pretty sure that the president believes that Republicans are holding all the cards here, and eventually that they're going to get the policy points that they think are best for the American people, and the financial situation that's best for the American people. Which is why I think they're going to. I mean, how do we think this is going to turn out? Somebody's going to have to budge, right? Who do we think is going to budge first?
I think Democrats will budge.
Well, that's my point. And the president knows that. I think the president knows that.
Allison,
go ahead.
And Paul, well, I mean, also the president, I think, has been clear that he, never let a good crisis go to waste, as I believe Rahm Emanuel said. And I think he's been clear that will use this to shed some more federal government jobs that he thinks are perhaps bloated. So I think that there's a feeling of, there's layoffs happening. He has said they might become permanent. So do you think that that's at play here, Paul?
I definitely do. I think we're again on the same page. I think the president views this as an opportunity to cut more government waste as he sees it, the bureaucracy, paring it down a little bit more. So we're all on the same page. And I think the fact that we all we see the same things and the same motivations shows that we're really in the same place with where this is going to go. I think it literally comes down to, how obstinate are the Democrats going to be? Because do they actually think that they're going to win at some point?
Who's going to?
We're out of time, but a yes or no. Shouldn't Congress be the first group that goes unpaid in the government shutdown?
That's a fair point. We can all agree on that. I think that's fair.
See,
I agree.
Totally. We agree on a lot.
Yep.
No steak dinners over that.
There should be some motivation for them,
the
right?
fact that the military goes unpaid before Congress makes my head explode. Good to see you, man. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Paul Kanitra, thanks for being here.
Allison.